What artificial intelligence just uncovered inside the genetic history of Queen Elizabeth I has stunned researchers around the world because this was never meant to be discovered. For more than 400 years, her body has remained sealed beneath Westminster Abbey. Her tomb has never been opened, and historians long believed the secrets of the Virgin Queen were buried there forever. But recently, a small group of geneticists and AI engineers attempted something extraordinary. Using advanced artificial intelligence and historical lineage records, they tried to digitally recreate what Elizabeth's DNA may have looked like without ever disturbing her tomb. At first, the project seemed routine. The data appeared normal, and the reconstruction process followed expected patterns. But then, the AI detected something unusual, hidden deep within the genetic sequences connected to the Tudor bloodline. According to insiders, the discovery shocked the team. One researcher reportedly called a colleague in the middle of the night and said only one sentence: "Something is very wrong." What the AI revealed pointed to a biological secret that could finally shed light on the greatest mystery of Elizabeth's life. When the team reviewed the complete results, some members even argued that the findings should never be made public. So, what exactly did artificial intelligence uncover in the reconstructed DNA of Queen Elizabeth I? Before we reveal the answer, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear might completely change what we think we know about the Virgin Queen. The ghost hidden in the artifacts. Exhuming a queen of Elizabeth's status is practically impossible. It would require an act of parliament, royal approval, and would trigger a massive media storm. In other words, it was never going to happen. Most people believed her secrets would remain buried forever. Everyone believed that, except this team. The Tudor Genome Project, a highly secretive international collaboration, brought together geneticists who previously worked on the identification of Richard III, along with elite AI engineers recruited from Silicon Valley. For 5 years, they worked almost entirely in silence. Their mission sounded ambitious, even on paper: use artificial intelligence to reconstruct the DNA of one of history's most powerful women using only microscopic biological traces left on her personal belongings. But what made the project truly unusual wasn't just the science, it was the secrecy. Funding moved quietly through 3 separate universities. No public announcements were made, and every team member signed strict non-disclosure agreements with serious financial consequences for breaking them. Whatever they discovered, they clearly wanted full control over how the world would learn about it. Objects that most historians dismissed as curiosities or possible forgeries, old rings, gloves, and letters, were seen by these researchers as biological time capsules. And they had a tool no previous generation possessed: an artificial intelligence system they nicknamed Argus, inspired by the all-seeing giant from Greek mythology. Argus wasn't just a powerful computer, it was a pattern recognition system trained on millions of ancient and modern genomes. It could detect degraded DNA fragments that human researchers would normally mistake for contamination. Dr. Vasquez and the team traveled across the world, collecting microscopic samples from artifacts believed to be authentic. Not visible pieces, not large fragments, just tiny traces, skin cells thinner than dust. Eventually, they focused on 3 key items. First, the checkers ring, a piece of jewelry Elizabeth was known to wear often. Second, a small locket she rarely removed, believed to contain a lock of her hair. Third, a pair of ceremonial gloves that still held trace epithelial cells trapped deep within the fabric after 4 centuries. And finally, a state letter addressed to the King of France, sealed with wax that had been pressed by Elizabeth's own thumb. Each artifact had a documented chain of custody stretching back hundreds of years, something crucial for proving authenticity. But there was a problem. Individually, each sample was almost useless. 4 centuries of decay, along with contamination from countless handlers, meant that any conventional laboratory would have dismissed them as dead ends. But Argus wasn't a conventional lab. Its first job was filtration, separating Elizabeth's true biological material from hundreds of years of contamination. Then the AI compared those damaged genetic fragments against verified DNA profiles from members of Elizabeth's extended bloodline, including her distant cousin, Richard III. Mitochondrial DNA from the Boleyn family was also included in the comparison. The system ran billions of genetic matches, eliminating contamination one fragment at a time, and keeping only the sequences that aligned with the expected maternal and paternal lines. Within weeks, billions of data points had been processed. When the results appeared, the team was stunned. With 99% certainty, the hair, skin cells, and even a single epithelial cell trapped in the wax seal all came from the same individual, a woman genetically connected to both the Tudor and Boleyn bloodlines. Dr. James Whitfield of Cambridge later described the moment in simple terms. "We expected a few fragments. Instead, we recovered a ghost." If this part of the story already has your attention, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because what the AI uncovered next made that confirmation seem almost insignificant. The genome that shouldn't exist. Using a method known as genetic temporal modeling, Argus approached the fragments like pieces of a shattered manuscript. The AI compared them against tens of thousands of European genomes from the 16th century. By learning what DNA from that time and place should statistically look like, it began rebuilding the missing portions, chromosome by chromosome. Think of it like restoring an ancient painting. If experts know the artist, the time period, and the style, and they still have a few original brush strokes, an advanced AI can estimate what the lost sections once looked like. That's essentially what Argus did with Elizabeth's genetic code. The result was extraordinary. A fully reconstructed virtual genome of Queen Elizabeth I, a genetic blueprint of a woman who died in 1603. But buried inside that blueprint was something so unexpected that, according to reports, Dr. Vasquez's hands began shaking as she reviewed the data at nearly 3 in the morning. Originally, the team had set out to answer a long-standing historical mystery: what actually caused Elizabeth's death? Her final days were deeply disturbing to those around her. After losing several of her closest companions, she fell into what her physician described as a settled and unmovable melancholy. She stopped eating regularly, claimed to see spirits in the room, and during her final 4 days, she refused to lie down at all. Instead, she remained standing, supported by exhausted ladies-in-waiting, or sat upright on stacks of cushions placed across the floor. Witnesses said she often pointed to her mouth in pain, but refused to explain what she was feeling. The entire royal court watched helplessly. No one understood what was happening, and her physicians had no explanation. The most powerful woman in England was slowly dying, and no one knew why. For centuries, historians blamed the cause on Venetian ceruse, the thick white makeup Elizabeth famously wore. After surviving a devastating case of smallpox in 1562, her face was left scarred. To hide the damage, she applied layers of this cosmetic, sometimes nearly an inch thick. But Venetian ceruse was incredibly toxic. It was made from white lead mixed with vinegar. The mixture damaged the skin beneath it. forcing her to apply even more makeup to hide the worsening effects. It also caused severe hair loss, which explains why she wore the iconic red wigs that became part of her image. Over time, it created a deadly cycle. The more she tried to maintain the appearance of a queen, the more poison slowly entered her body. Argus confirmed that theory almost immediately. Her genetic profile revealed a strong vulnerability to heavy metal poisoning. A rare variation in her metabolic genes meant her body struggled to eliminate lead the way most people could. The toxin would have gradually built up in her system, damaging her organs. Her liver, according to the AI's projections, would have slowly become scarred and weakened. But while analyzing the genome further, the AI detected something completely unrelated to lead poisoning. Deep within her X chromosome, Argus identified a cluster of rare mutations that suggested something far more shocking about Elizabeth herself. And this is where the story becomes truly controversial. The secret in the X chromosome. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding Elizabeth I was always right in front of everyone. Her title, the Virgin Queen. For 44 years, that identity defined her reign. She wasn't simply a monarch, she crafted an almost mythical persona. She was portrayed as Gloriana Astrea, the virgin goddess returned to rule England. She famously declared that she was married to her kingdom. Throughout her life, she entertained the possibility of marriage with many powerful men. There was King Philip II of Spain, who hoped to bring England back under Catholic influence. There was Francis, Duke of Anjou, the French prince she teasingly nicknamed My Frog. And perhaps most famously, there was Robert Dudley, her childhood friend and closest confidant. For decades, she allowed the possibility of marriage to linger, but she never accepted any proposal. Historians have usually described this as a brilliant political strategy. By remaining unmarried, Elizabeth kept England independent from foreign control. By flirting with alliances, she turned marriage negotiations into a powerful diplomatic tool. But according to the Argus analysis, the explanation might be very different. And it has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with survival. The AI detected genetic markers consistent with a condition now known as androgen insensitivity syndrome, often called AIS. In this condition, a person carries XY chromosomes, genetically male, but the body cannot respond to male hormones. As a result, the individual develops physically as female. They look female, live as female, and usually identify as female. However, they do not have a uterus and are unable to have children. The condition is invisible from the outside. Many people with AIS only discover it when they try to conceive. Now imagine what this could have meant in the 16th century. Elizabeth's entire role as queen depended on producing an heir to continue the Tudor dynasty. Royal marriage wasn't optional. It was considered the fundamental duty of a monarch. If her condition had ever been revealed, the consequences could have been catastrophic. Her strongest rival, Mary, Queen of Scots, already had a legitimate son, James. Political enemies might have claimed Elizabeth was unfit to rule, unnatural, or even cursed. Catholic powers across Europe could have used it as propaganda against the Protestant throne. The result might have been rebellion or even civil war. So according to this theory, Elizabeth did the only thing she could. She turned her secret into a legend. If she couldn't become a mother, she would become something greater, a symbol. With the help of her closest advisors, including Spymaster Francis Walsingham and Chief Minister William Cecil, she carefully built the image of the untouchable Virgin Queen. Every portrait was controlled. Every appearance was staged. Every speech reinforced the idea that she had willingly chosen celibacy for the good of her kingdom. But the AI's analysis suggests something even more fascinating. Her obsession with controlling her appearance may have had another reason as well. According to the Argus report, Elizabeth's famously long fingers, visible in nearly every portrait, may have been one of several subtle physical traits connected to the same genetic condition. Many of Elizabeth's portraits show her with unusually long, slender fingers. According to modern medical research, that physical trait is often linked to the very condition the AI suggested. Women with AIS frequently grow taller than average, with slim bodies and elongated fingers. In that context, the heavy white makeup Elizabeth wore may not have been simple vanity. It may have been protection. The thick layers of cosmetic paint created a flawless mask, one that removed any hint of physical ambiguity and presented an image of perfect, untouchable royalty to the world. She wasn't just hiding behind the makeup. In a way, she was hiding inside it. Think back to her famous speech at Tilbury when England faced the threat of the Spanish Armada. In that moment, she declared, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." Some historians now wonder if those words carried a deeper truth than anyone realized at the time. Perhaps she was revealing something literal, wrapped inside a powerful battle cry that no one there could fully understand. She told them exactly what she was, and they cheered, never recognizing the hidden meaning behind her words. For her entire life, Elizabeth performed a role. She never allowed anyone close enough to uncover the truth. She never permitted the kind of intimacy that might expose her secret. Every relationship became political theater. Every potential marriage partner became part of a performance that could never truly end. That, perhaps, is the real story of the Virgin Queen. Not just brilliance, but survival. A survival strategy that was intelligent, lonely, and at times terrifying. But the AI wasn't finished, because the next discovery had nothing to do with her body. It had to do with her blood. And this revelation shocked the research team even more than the first, the DNA that didn't match. To complete the study, researchers needed to confirm Elizabeth's place within the Tudor family line. This was supposed to be the simplest step, a routine genetic comparison. Dr. Vasquez expected a straightforward confirmation. Instead, what appeared on the screen left Dr. Whitfield silent for nearly a full minute during their call. The maternal side of the analysis was perfectly clear. Elizabeth's mitochondrial DNA, the genetic material passed only from mother to daughter, matched the Boleyn family line exactly. There was no doubt about it. Elizabeth was unquestionably the daughter of Anne Boleyn. But the problem appeared when the researchers analyzed the paternal side. They compared Elizabeth's genome to known Y chromosome markers belonging to the Tudor dynasty. These markers had been confirmed using remains connected to male members of the family line, including the famous remains identified as Richard III. The Y chromosome is one of the most reliable tools in genetic genealogy. It passes almost unchanged from father to son over generations. If Elizabeth truly were the daughter of Henry VIII, the genetic link should have been unmistakable. But the results showed something shocking. There was no match at all. Dr. Marcus Chin, a statistical geneticist from Imperial College London, ran the test again. Then he ran it a third time, widening the margin for possible error. Every time, the same result appeared. Later, he reportedly told colleagues that the discovery made him feel physically sick. "The numbers don't lie," he said. Henry VIII was not her father. If this interpretation were correct, it would completely transform one of the most famous stories in English history. Elizabeth, the monarch who defined an entire era, might not have been a Tudor by blood at all. According to the laws of her own time, that would have made her claim to the throne illegitimate. Everything she built, every battle she fought, every sacrifice she made would have rested on a lineage that technically wasn't hers, and the discovery also raises an unsettling possibility historians have debated for centuries. It suggests that Anne Boleyn may actually have been unfaithful to the king. When Henry VIII ordered her arrest, he accused her of treason and adultery with several men, even including her own brother. For generations, most historians believed those accusations were fabricated, a cruel political move by a king desperate to replace her with Jane Seymour. But the AI's findings complicate that narrative. Not every accusation may have been true, but the central one, infidelity, might have had some basis in reality. And that leads to an even more haunting question. Did Elizabeth herself know? Think about her early life. Her father declared her illegitimate when she was only 2 years old. Her mother was executed. Throughout her childhood, she was treated as a political pawn, removed from succession, then restored, then threatened again. She grew up never completely secure. Historians have long wondered where her extraordinary determination came from. That iron discipline and relentless focus that defined her reign. This new interpretation offers a chilling possibility. She may have spent her entire life aware that her claim to the throne rested on fragile ground, and that fear, the constant possibility of exposure, may have fueled the strength that defined her rule. The genetic data even points toward possible candidates. The paternal markers appear to connect to a noble family within Anne Boleyn's circle. 2 names frequently mentioned in historical speculation stand out. One is Henry Percy, the Earl of Northumberland, the man Anne deeply loved before Henry VIII forced their relationship to end. The other is Mark Smeaton, a court musician who was executed alongside Anne. For centuries, historians believed he had been tortured into confessing to adultery. But if the AI's interpretation is correct, he might not have been lying at all. Yet the system uncovered one final secret. And this one had nothing to do with identity. It had to do with murder. The virtual autopsy. After reconstructing Elizabeth's genome, the researchers took the project even further. They performed what they called a virtual autopsy. Using the genetic model, Argus built a digital representation of Elizabeth's body, her organs, metabolism, nervous system, and blood chemistry. Then it simulated the final weeks of her life. The traditional explanation for her death seemed straightforward. She was 69 years old. She had recently lost several close companions, including her cousin, Catherine Carey. She was also shaken by the rebellion and execution of Robert Devereux, Earl of Essex. Add decades of lead poisoning from her cosmetics, plus grief and stress, and the explanation appeared complete. But Argus disagreed. Yes, lead had damaged her liver, but the simulation showed that lead poisoning alone could not explain all her symptoms, not the intense burning pain in her mouth, not her inability to lie down, not the extreme stiffness that forced her to remain standing for days. Something else had entered her body. So the AI ran a full toxicology analysis, testing thousands of known poisons against the model. Eventually, it found a match, a rare and complex combination of aconite, wolfsbane, and atropine from belladonna, also known as deadly nightshade. This wasn't a crude poison like arsenic. It was a carefully crafted mixture, the kind only someone with deep knowledge of herbal toxins could prepare. According to the simulation, small doses of belladonna would cause fever, flushed skin, and delirium, making the symptoms look like a natural illness. At the same time, wolfsbane would quietly attack the nervous system. The first symptom would be a burning sensation in the mouth, explaining why Elizabeth kept pointing to it but refused to speak. Then severe muscle stiffness would set in, making it extremely painful to lie down. Standing would become the only tolerable position. Finally, over several days, the poison would slow the respiratory system until the lungs simply stopped working. The simulation's conclusion was chilling. Elizabeth did not die peacefully. She likely died slowly, fully conscious, aware that something was terribly wrong, but unable to explain it. The question then becomes, who could have done it? The number of suspects is surprisingly small. Foreign agents from Spain or the Vatican are possibilities, but the poison would have required close access over several days, which suggests someone inside her own circle. One possibility is James of Scotland, the man waiting to inherit the English throne the moment she died. Another, even more unsettling suspect is Sir Robert Cecil, the son of Elizabeth's longtime advisor, William Cecil. Historical records show that Robert Cecil had already begun secret communications with James months before Elizabeth's death, quietly arranging a smooth transfer of power. He had much to gain from a predictable succession, and much to lose if the aging queen suddenly changed her mind about her heir. Did he decide that a quiet death was safer than uncertainty? History offers a curious detail. Within hours of Elizabeth's final breath, Cecil had already proclaimed James as the new king. The transition was flawless, almost rehearsed, the tomb that still holds the truth. Of course, there's an important reality to remember. All of this remains a simulation. It's built from real DNA fragments, authentic artifacts, and historical records. But it's still a model, not a physical autopsy. No court would ever convict someone based purely on AI predictions. And yet what troubles Dr. Vasquez the most is how perfectly the puzzle pieces fit. The symptoms, the political motives, the strange events of Elizabeth's final days. For the first time in 4 centuries, the mystery seems to form a complete picture. The woman history remembers as the Virgin Queen may have lived a life far more complex and far more tragic than anyone realized. She wasn't only battling enemies abroad. She may have been fighting her own biology, the uncertainty of her bloodline, and perhaps even a hidden killer within her own court. For 44 years, she held the throne while carrying secrets that could have destroyed her at any moment. She transformed impossible weakness into legendary strength. And when she died, those secrets were sealed inside her tomb beneath Westminster Abbey, locked away for more than 400 years, until an AI named Argus tried to bring them back into the light. So now the question remains, should historians finally open the tomb at Westminster Abbey to test whether the AI was right? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if this story made you see Elizabeth I in a completely different way, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the secrets artificial intelligence is uncovering from history are only just beginning.